So we're gonna start right on time. Thank you all for joining. Um, Even though we're gonna wait for a minute or two, just so you have your connection ready, you get a nice spot so you can listen to the recording or to the webinar live if you're here. So good morning, good afternoon, or good night, either you watching it live or recording. And it's a pleasure and an honor for me to start off hosting this webinar titled Delivering Exceptional Customer Experience Requires a Modern PIM. And it's not only me, and I'm accompanied by Amanda Leclair. She's our guest speaker from Forrester. I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Again, my name is Amanda Leclair. I'm a senior analyst at Forrester Research, covering product information management. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to me. So thank you all for joining.
Not at all. Thank you for being a guest speaker here. So again, as we said, we're gonna wait for 1 minute. And after this minute, Amanda will start with her exposition or presentation, just so we give you or allow you some time to join. And by the way, if you want to take advantage of this minute, the best way, why don't you just go down to the chat or to the Q&A, write your question, and we'll make sure that question will be answered right after this presentation. So basically the minutes went by. So Amanda, we're all ears. Please, we want to know a little bit more about delivering exceptional customer experience requires modern PIM.
All right, thank you, Chris. And again, thanks everyone for joining. I think this is an especially timely topic. As from my view, it's been for a long time, but I noticed even at Forrester, with all the inquiries I've gotten, I'm seeing it become more and more top of mind to a more senior of stakeholders as well. And in part, that's driven by, I'm not going to go into, recount what everyone has experienced over the past almost 2 years at this point in great detail, but do want to start out of why I think this has especially become such a hot topic, and why it's so great talking about it today as everyone is finishing up their priority planning for 2022, and especially retailers prepping for a very busy holiday season this year. What we've seen with the impact of the pandemic, what really sticks out in my mind is that it was a way to pressure test enterprises' digital maturity. Back in 2019, there was actually a survey that showed that 85% of executives considered digital a nice to have. Now, as we all know, in 2020, digital became really the only channel for which companies could interact with their customers. And so I don't think that we'd see such a number so high. In fact, I think it would be, hopefully reversed if digital is core to your business if we were to rerun that survey. But what we saw with the impact of the pandemic and digital being the only channel for interactions, the only channels for interactions, is that it really created and exposed some critical gaps in supply chain, in content. I think most of us as consumers at some point probably experienced items that were delayed in transit, or low availability of certain items, like particularly around home improvement, especially thinking back a year ago when most of us were finding ways to be the DIY experts in our own homes. Or maybe it was we did something online that we hadn't before, like in the category of grocery, where we saw there was a big uptick in consumers who bought their groceries online for the first time. And for the retailers, the manufacturers, the distributors that were trying to pivot to these rapidly accelerated consumer behaviors, they really saw what those gaps were in their current technology architecture to be able to pivot to new channels, new buying motions, and really new requirements or elevated requirements. And while it did take many enterprises off guard, these were all trends that we've been covering in our research for a long time. So despite the fact that sort of the how you meet your business priorities have changed, there is a constant here that we've seen. And that's what those top levels, the why, the so what for priorities have remained the same, right? It's kind of business 101 here. You want to provide high quality customer experiences that will drive growth while cutting costs, reducing costs over time. So we've seen that despite sort of this frantic, changing of or responding to changing customer requirements, that really enterprises are focused on the core top priorities that they should be, right? Improving customer experiences, reducing costs, and growing revenues. But how you achieve those, what actions you take, is really where we see the big challenges. And especially at Forrester, what we spend a lot of our time coaching our customers, our clients through of how to achieve those priorities. That's what's gotten more difficult. And while digital has created more opportunities, there's also more obstacles that require a lot more, whether it's resources or content or data or especially customer data, or more deep understanding of what metrics you're using to determine success. So the data I'm showing here, these are just diving into one of those priorities of what actions you might take that we surveyed to help improve customer experience. And you can see that this is an ambitious and varied list. That enterprises are looking to improve their online customer experiences. They want to transform their cultures to be more customer-centric. They are investing in new architectures to support omni-channel commerce. So any one of these actions in and of themselves requires a pretty massive investment. I mean, transforming a whole company culture, that is much easier said than done, as is creating the architecture to support that culture and deliver on your brand values. And, despite just the proliferation of actions here that enterprises are focused on for improving their customer experience, we also see, kind of this buzzword bingo that I have on the left-hand side here of how they think they might, what are the things they feel that they must do is the way I think of it. We must find a way to be Amazon. We must improve our ability to deliver personalized experiences. How can we become the Uber of our industry? And really what this is, if you think of, what marketing teams, data teams, sales teams, product teams, this is a lot of additional stress on top of a very full set of daily responsibilities as well. And I think, it can be easy to get lost in kind of the high level here of all of the things that you have to do to meet your customer experiences and thinking of what's next generation, how can we go above and beyond. But what I've seen, what's, kind of the topic of our webinar today, often one of the under-tapped or under-realized levers to achieve and improve customer experiences and also has a revenue and cost impact is your product data. Product data really directly supports almost all of these priorities for improving customer experience. Having the right product information available online for customers to research your products and find your products is part of supporting that online experience. Being able to syndicate your content out to the channels that your customers expect to be able to interact with you on, like through social channels, there's a product data impact there. From a technology standpoint, the product information management tools that you use are a part of that omni-channel architecture. So product information is really part of the foundation for delivering customer experiences. And that may be depending on where you're at in your maturity or your company's recognition of the role that product data plays in customer experience. For better or for worse, it is already impacting customer experiences. Again, I think that we can all think of a time in our consumer, if we put our consumer hats on, where we perhaps had a missed expectation versus reality for product data. I can give an example from my own life from last week. I had bought a water bottle online for which I expected it to come with a sports cap based on the product detail page and the imagery, and it did not. I had to order that separately, which was a slight delay, and in the grand scheme of things, not a huge miss, but a miss nonetheless. And this is not only true in B2C examples, it's also true in B2B, where that product data is what supports your buyer's ability to become the experts along their purchasing journey. The way I think of it, the product data is the 101, getting your product data right is the 101 of delivering customer experiences, because the product information is how your consumers do become the experts in their purchasing journey. It's the SEO optimized content for them to be able to find the right products or services to meet their needs in the first place. It's the rich product detailed pages that allow them to understand whether it's a product that meets their current need. It's the how-to videos that support them even post-purchase, and the lifestyle content that builds consumer loyalty over time. And while that involves more rich media and beyond just the product specs themselves, having accurate and complete product data is non-negotiable when it comes to delivering customer experiences. And that's that the complete and accurate data are really the foundation. You cannot go above and beyond. You've already broken the experience if you're not providing your customers with data that is complete and correct. But what we see, again, is kind of one of the next level challenges is the way that there's one of those gaps between expectations versus reality, between what I see the companies I work with considering their product data as the product specs and what consumers consider the product information that they're looking for. It's not just about a product description and a handful of attributes, or maybe even 3 or 4 images to support that. Really what we've been seeing, and has only kind of leveled the bar up, are consumers are looking for more contextualized content. They want visibility of items within store. So the lines between digital experience and physical experiences are blurring. Your product data must be set up to support that blurred line between physical and digital. They want rich product detail pages. So going beyond just the dimensions of products, but is this a shirt that might be transitional season as we are right now as we move between fall and winter, or how many hot dogs or hamburgers can fit on this grill, going beyond the dimensions, looking for much richer product information on those product detail pages. They're also looking for other customer ratings and reviews. They're not just trusting what the information that's coming from retailers and the manufacturer sites. They want to know consumers that look and feel like them, how they've used the products and what their feedback is. Raises their bar in their mind. You're now competing not just with others in your industry, but against any digital experience that your consumers have been exposed to. And that's true both for B2C companies and B2B buyers. And unfortunately, we see that there's still a lot of misses today, that there's gaps between companies still struggling to meet these baseline expectations. Approximately 1 in 5 consumers return items they bought online because of ambiguous or misleading product data. So that not only is a customer experience miss, right? Because the product that they received was not the product that they expected, but it also incurs, thinking back to those top priorities, that's lost revenue and incurs operational costs to manage that return and perhaps have to replace an item. So there's real, your product data does impact the bottom line for your business beyond just perhaps a negative review from the customer. So there are bigger impacts for having your product data in line. And really what we see at Forrester that's driving some of these challenges is the way that product data is managed internally. So, I've worked with companies, and I still work with companies quite frequently, that use spreadsheets and emails to manage their product information. They've got multiple versions of semi-truths for their all of their product data, and they're emailing for approvals and tracking workflows just kind of haphazardly because they don't have purpose-built tools to support the management of product data. There's also disparity in siloed teams. What marketers need from the product information may be different than what sales teams need, may be different from what procurement teams are looking for, or your data management teams. So all of these different teams internally have different needs for the product data, and they may be using different tools, but they're certainly using different processes that may be leading to a lot of rework of the same manual enrichment over and over again, that again is incurring additional labor costs for your organization. But what we also see is there's a disconnect between metrics as well. A lot of times when I look at even perhaps legacy or older PIM solutions, as they track data quality, it really is a measure of completeness, meaning there are values that exist within all the fields that there should be values. But that's not really empowering all of these different teams that leverage product data to understand whether it is meeting customer expectations, whether there are gaps where you're getting a lot of calls into your customer service because they can't find the information they need to self-service themselves, or if you're getting returns on a lot of products because there is ambiguity in the product description, or you're missing attributes that would allow buyers to have a better expertise, a better level of familiarity with the product before they purchase it. So we see silos impacting not just from the technology standpoint, but also from what success looks like from a metric standpoint, as well as different teams and processes. But the good news is, I think because going back to what we've seen happen in the last year, is I've noticed an elevation of the role and understanding of the importance of product information within the enterprise. Thinking back to when I first joined Forrester and covered this space, you would see a lot of references to product information management as an operational back office technology, a golden source of truth for product information that was under lock and key, again, very operational. But as organizations recognize that product data is one of the obstacles that they have in delivering consistent and quality customer experiences, they've recognized that product information management needs to be much better integrated into their digital experience technologies. So the way I view this is PIM kind of straddling your digital operational platform technologies like your ERP or your master data management, even some parts of your customer data, sitting alongside more of your experience technologies like your digital asset management systems, like your content management systems, like your commerce platforms, because product data, again, is that 101 foundation for fueling those experiences across channel. But it's not just about the data itself. We also saw that consumers expect much more of that rich media. And what that has led to is, again, this understanding of PIM's role broadening within the enterprise. Earlier this year, I did research in which I interviewed just about 30 decision makers for product information management. And you can see on the top here, the roles that I spoke to as a part of that research spanned across the enterprise. There were heads of master data management and channel integration, but also VPs of marketing, e-commerce, customer experience that were the owners of PIM within their organization. And on the bottom, you can see this timeline that the pandemic, one of the byproducts was this recognition from many of the firms that we talked to, that they needed a modern solution, that if they had a legacy PIM system, or perhaps they were using spreadsheets, that this no longer served their need and it got in the way of their ability to have a presence across channels, to be able to quickly bring new products to market, or to enrich products in a way that made sense that for what buyers were looking for, such as, for things that could cover your face, what was approved as a face covering, even though that may not have been the traditional use for those types of products. So really that recognition that they needed a modern PIM solution as kind of a prerequisite for being able to deliver on their current state priorities. And so we've certainly seen PIM, a modern PIM, moving away from that concept of it's just this golden record operational technology under lock and key, to supporting a broader set of users within the enterprise, which means acting as that central repository for all of the different hands, if you think of that need to touch that product data from the time it's entered into your system to the time that a product ends up in the hands of your consumer, that the PIM is supporting a much broader set of professionals than just IT roles, as maybe a traditional way of looking at PIM used to be. It was much more of an IT back of the office technology, as I said. And then it also supports that operational and experience excellence, that when you're looking at a modern PIM for where it sits in your architecture, you're looking for both upstream and downstream integration in order to unlock the full value of this investment. It also integrates very closely related with those adjacent tools that allow you to be able to build holistic and consistent experiences across channels. And lastly, is enabled through agile, flexible, modern solutions. So I'll just look forward one to show what that looks like, what I've seen in the shift of requirements for a modern product information management system. And building off that idea of agility, like we've seen across the enterprise app landscape, buyers are looking for a SaaS solution. They're looking for something that's going to allow them to get quick time to value and sits within their modern architecture. But also they're looking for data model flexibility, that they're not just looking for agility as in SaaS, but they're looking for a system that supports their ability to customize attributes and manage multiple different product catalogs for different channels, for different sets of buyers, that the solution is not a one size fits all, but supports all of their needs for product data within their ecosystem, both internally and working with suppliers and partners across their value chain. Also, user experience. Again, I mentioned that PIM is relevant to a broader set of roles within the enterprise than we've seen historically, which means the level of expectation for what the PIM should look and feel like has evolved to be much more business user friendly, supporting the business users' ability to add new attributes and customize workflows without IT intervention, and to do so with a tool that feels intuitive to them, to support what they expect from the different software that they engage with as professionals. So that's been one of the biggest changes in requirements. I mentioned that research earlier where we spoke to almost 30 different PIM decision makers. Every single one of them said how important UX was when they were making their decision. And lastly, the expectation for what PIM should support within the business, it needs to be directly tied to business outcomes like customer experience, like reducing costs by having reducing the level of manual hours it takes to enrich content with a solution that has more automated functionality and opportunities for reuse, and also to grow revenue by allowing you to syndicate content out to the channels, to more channels where your customers are, in a much faster and automated way, that you're increasing your chances to grow revenues there. And of course, things that are always important, not just for PIM, but in any category, the performance, that it's aligned to industry, that you're able to meet your industry requirements and compliance. It's a PIM solution that supports that you're able to easily integrate with those key systems and not incur a bunch of additional implementation costs doing so. And then, of course, cost always matters, and it's same is true with a modern PIM solution. So for those that are joining that maybe at the beginning stages, or even reevaluating your current PIM solution, if you're looking for something that's more modern, based on your own organization's current priorities, whether it's very customer experience oriented, or you're really looking to create a cleaner central repository for your product data, there's a few things that stand out that you'll I think encounter as you look across the landscape. So jumping back in, considering your PIM investment not in another silo, right? You want to work cross-functional, whether you sit in IT or data management or in marketing, that you're making your PIM selection as a part of a broader strategic context. You're looking at those adjacent technologies. You'll also, if you looked at any headlines in this space, notice that it's been a pretty hot market for acquisitions. And I would expect more as a buyer. As PIM's role within the enterprise broadens, the vendors in this space are innovating at a very rapid pace. This was a market that looked much more homogeneous probably 10 years ago than it does today, as vendors are looking to support a really those broader needs across the enterprise. So there's a lot of innovation and perhaps overlapping functionality that's coming from vendors, whether it is through organic improvements to the existing platforms or through an acquisition strategy. And lastly, to that point, there are multiple paths to PIM. You may see other vendors from other categories that list product information management as a part of their functionality. My ask, if you're joining this PIM webinar, you are likely already past the point where using PIM Lite capabilities across other categories are not likely to suit your needs, but recognizing that there are adjacent platforms that do some level of product information management. And if you are looking at replacing your commerce platform, that's the top priority this year, and maybe implementing a purpose-built PIM is later on, there are paths that you can take as part of a pragmatic transformation approach by leveraging some of that functionality that lives in those adjacent systems that you may already be using as you look to start to catalyze more your own PIM journey. And lastly, I will leave you with just a few recommendations for setting your future fit product data strategy. And these are really the lessons learned that I've seen at Forrester working with a number of clients. First and foremost is making sure you have the right stakeholders involved. It should look like a cross-functional group. I've stressed several times of where PIM sits within the architecture, that it is relevant to a broader set of users. Whether you're replacing a PIM than you probably had involved at that first implementation, or you're looking to really set up that future fit strategy with a modern PIM, you want to make sure it's a solution that supports all of the different needs of product data within your organization, and that those roles are represented from the outset, so you don't get down the path and recognize you've got a whole other set of requirements that are going to derail your project as you figure out a way to incorporate them. My second recommendation is to use customer journey maps to identify where you have current critical gaps or opportunities. There's a lot of content that is necessary to support your customers across their path to purchase and even post-purchase that is simply not realistic for most organizations to pop out overnight. So you can use customer journey maps to identify where some of those key gaps are, whether it's areas that you're seeing a lot of returns or a lot of calls into your call center, and use that to inform the opportunities where you can make those investments to create more contextualized or more informative, like how-to content to support your customers as a starting point in the near term. Third, factor in time if you're implementing a PIM, especially for the first time, for that data aggregation and data cleansing. This is something I see quite often take customers I work with by surprise. And you want to be sure that you're avoiding a garbage in, garbage out scenario. No technology project is about technology for technology's sake. So you want to make sure that the way that you're entering the data into your PIM solution is going to optimize the way you can get that data out. And that often takes time. There's this first phase of data quality challenge as you look to collect all of the product data across your organization, figure out what is up to date, figure out the way you want to structure your hierarchies and taxonomies that will ultimately allow you to get that fast time to value once you implement the PIM. But first, you've got to get the data quality right on this first phase. And lastly, as you're looking to select a PIM vendor, make sure that the vendor's strategy and vision is aligned with where your organization is going. I mentioned that there's a lot of innovation happening in this space, but vendors are not moving in a single direction for how they're expanding their platforms. So as you look at the partner that's going to be the right fit aligned to where your organization is going, look at where they're going, where they're investing in their roadmap, and make sure that that's aligned with the needs of your organization, because this is not just about a technology vendor. It's really going to be a partner as a part of your own transformation journeys. So it's really critical to look at the visions and make sure you're aligned and not just the current state functionality, but that future state vision. And so with that, I want to thank all of you for bearing with me with some of my Zoom issues today. And thank you, Chris, for having me as a part of this conversation. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to have your insights, right? And speaking of which, Amanda actually gave her recommendations, let's just check out a modern PIM, which is, by the way, sales layer. Before we start on this, I wanted to say that I am seeing your questions, but since we have a programmed Q&A after the presentation, we will ask those later. So if you do have a question, apart from all of those that you've already asked, please go ahead and use your Q&A to ask questions either for Amanda, for myself, or for both if you like. So starting with sales layers presentation, if we go to our next slide, we'll see how digital commerce is growing fast since 2020. And this is something that is so heard. We're not even going to dive into this because we've already seen how 2020 was the year that made the huge growth, but that's the expectation to go on to 2024. So going to the next slide, we'll see how Sales Layer has asked, or not only asked, but we've researched what exactly our customers, let's say, expectations, right? So the point here is that 58% of the customer's experience, they say that it must improve, right? So that is, you as a customer, remember last time you bought, was it really the experience you were expecting? Amanda just gave us a good example of her water bottle, and that's just a simple example. And the point here is that there's a large gap to be improved, right? And then only 13% of those that were questioned, they felt they got excellent customer insights. That is a very low percentage, right? But this is even lower. Only 10% of those that were in this interview feel that they were offered an excellent customer engagement. Excellent. That's the word that we're going to emphasize today. Excellent customer engagement. How? Well, if we go on to the next slide, we'll see how customers have expectations. What are these evolving expectations? Let's go to the next slide. Well, Amanda was also giving some ideas around what the shopper interacts with, and we're talking about channels, right? At least these customers are gonna try to get some ideas, inspiration, even maybe reviews for that specific product they're looking for. So let's just imagine when was last time you bought something. And I'm just going to give my example. I wanted to buy one of these hoverboards for my son, and I started just searching in different channels. So one of them was social media. Another one was YouTube. I looked on YouTube to see kids, how they used it, what age they were, how they felt, was it safe for them? With all this, and I just mentioned 2 channels, if we start looking, we will see maybe I looked in Amazon to see what's the right price. Then I looked in another site to see if there's some offers. So the idea here is that just for this hoverboard, I started searching, and I'm guessing that you as a customer have done the same journey. Now, what do we want to have during all these phases? Quality data, videos, images, reviews, comparisons, right? Some of them provided by the actual manufacturer or distributor, but some of them also provided by other customers. So we have to, or as marketeers, we have to harmonize this product over all our channels, right? By the way, I don't sell hoverboards. I have nothing to do with that. It's just an example. But the point, I think it's quite clear, right? We have to give this engaging interaction and a journey that makes sense to the customer. So if as a manufacturer, I could give or send a message through a YouTube video, a social media post, a review that I'm highlighting on my site, all these ideas, that all of them have to become, or have to be hosted on one central repository, which is obviously a product information management. And very important, be consistent with the channel that we're talking about. So customers are increasingly more attracted by shopping by the experience, right, than the actual product and price. So going back to my example, come to find out, one of these videos that was actually a review on YouTube, it had obviously sponsored, it was an ad, it was a real ad by one of these manufacturers. So the idea is that if you see a video that catches your eye and you're totally engaged, it's easier for you to actually be willing to make that purchase. So that journey is not linear. It's not like, okay, this is the product, this is the price, this is the specs of the product, and just buy it. No, we're talking about a whole journey where there is engagement both by the customer and the actual manufacturer or distributor. Now, the shoppers, we are constantly moving and shifting from different needs, and obviously marketers have to respond. How? Well, obviously with powerful tools. And as we were saying, the rise of on-time online shoppers, or sorry, one-time online shoppers, what I mean is those that, because for example, I'm not going to buy another hoverboard because I only have one son, but obviously as a manufacturer of this product, you want to have maybe an engagement with them. With what? Well, maybe a battery, maybe some accessories, some other products that I also sell around the hoverboard. So it's not something that, again, I'm using this as an example. Don't keep it as a unique, as only one product. But the point here is that we don't want that customer to come and buy just one product. We want them to buy this product and then the next, and then something similar, and then something that adds maybe a replacement for that product. So having all this products information ready to be shared is crucial, right? So if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk here about 5 different, let's say, key factors to make or to offer a compelling experience, right? First of all, omni-channel. Amanda also mentioned this as a buzzword, and it is true. You may have heard, even I made a webinar some time ago about the omni-channel, but it's very understandable. Multiple digital channels. We're talking not only your own website, but maybe other marketplaces, and so on and so forth. Then we have fragmentation. We've already mentioned this, but just to be clear, several touch points, not only one message and expect that to be it. No, you have to have these different contacts with your customer. Personalization. So we were talking about how your product can be addressed to different customers, so that the actual customer feels that this product is speaking to him or her. She or he feels totally engaged and sees like, oh, that's exactly what I need. That's exactly what I'm looking for. New business models. We're talking about D2C, marketplace, social media. And I always use the same example when I talk about D2C. Prior to COVID era, some brands would never even imagine to sell straight to the customer. But come to find out, COVID came, changed, and shifted all ideas, and they opened sites, they opened even deliveries, and you have the brand in mind. I don't even have to mention them. You've already seen the news where they, for once in a lifetime, they started selling straight to customers. Now, you as a manufacturer, are you or have you already started doing that? Now, are your products ready to do that? Is your content ready to do that? All these questions you have to ask if you're ready for new business models. And that's not the point also, but what's next? Who knows? Are you ready for that? So product experience and customer experience, we know that we know our product, we know what it's for, but does our customer know what it's for? Do we know how to sell it to them? Are they aware of the benefits of buying our product? All this content has to be centralized in one true repository. So if we move on to the next slide, we'll see how these 5, let's say we said keys, are actually already managed and solved thanks to Sales Layer PIM. We provide the solution for these. So for the customer experience, we have quality content. And with it, we have a quality report, and whoever is not familiar with Sales Layer and wants to know a little bit more about all these features, just you can ask, by the way, at the end of this webinar. But thanks to the quality report, we have the possibility of improving and making sure that our customer experience is up to expectations. The customer behavior, thanks to all the analysis and all the data that we can host, we can start not only knowing how the product went, but also how to make it better for to sell more, or to be ready for this modification of maybe channel, or so on and so forth. And speaking of channel, we said channel ubiquity, we have the centralization, one true point or one true source of content. Amanda was also mentioning about different silos of information where people were sending emails, people were updating their own spreadsheets. That is very bad practice. She already mentioned that, but the idea here is that thanks to a tool like a modern PIM, you can actually collaborate and centralize all information. So it's not reworking all the time in different spreadsheets or silos of information. But never forget our commercial network, right? We cannot forget those that are on the front line, that they always need the latest update. They need the latest information. So thanks to our hyper automation, we're ready to just update all information at once and have it ready to be shared with all our commercial network. And finally, but not, last but not least, business policies, right? Well, thanks to all the information that we can host and all the data that can be managed on Sales Layer, we have this transparency and efficiency, right? So we're ready for anything that you need. These 5 pains that we were talking about, 5 key features that we were talking about. So if we move on to the next slide, we're asking about this question: how the role of PIM is changing within enterprises to better serve marketers' needs. So let's pinpoint these ideas, because we have, please go ahead for the next slide, because we have some job or some work to do, because the demand of PIM systems among tech consumers is accelerating. Amanda just gave us some ideas of customers that are, and this marketers actually demanding, and the fact is that 49% of digital sales grew in 2020, and overall 15% grew in 2020. And this has resulted in a demand of better product information, better tools to manage them. But the point is that many PIMs have to evolve to adapt to these demands, right? And actually all this data is thanks to Forrester. Thank you very much for providing this information. And if we go to the next slide, the point here is that, yes, that is the demand, but what's the solution? Well, Sales Layer PIM. Why? Well, we're a 360 product. We have the product content, so we have visibility in the digital shelf. We have analytics where we can monitor our product content and prices, and we have all the PIM capabilities, so we can turn those into insights and to be ready to to attack those 5 points that we were mentioning before, right? So going a little bit into detail, if we go into our next slide, Amanda just gave us some ideas of what a modern PIM needs, right? So let's go a little bit over those and how SalesLayer actually covers those needs. Amanda was talking about forgetting about silos, having all centralized, and that is a single source of truth for all content. Check. We're also talking about different departments having or actually engaging and enriching and so on. Also check. SalesLayer provides that possibility. We're also talking about less friction in online shopping experiences among different channels. The point here is that SalesLayer provides a marketplace where you can almost on a click and a few configurations, you can start selling on your desired marketplace, e-com, or sales channel. Another check, consistent brand image. So we know for a fact how difficult it is to have the same branding across not only your own site, not only e-commerce, but across your whole omni-channel. And thanks to having all this ready in the PIM, now you can have this consistent brand image. But also, it's hard to have a system that can help you improve your SEO, your positioning, your marketplace, and your engine search, right? Your search engines. Now the point is, thanks to SalesLayer's capability, where you can build metadata fields, you can build SEO fields. Thanks to those, you can later on export them and connect them to all these different channels. Also, product segmentation and customization, thanks to the power of SalesLayer's enriched fields and different hundreds of images you can host on, or thousands even, or millions even in the damn capabilities. And last but not least, a seamless data ecosystem. No more silos. The point here is for every pain that Amanda rose, or for every need that marketers are demanding, we have a solution in SalesLayer PIM. So now we're going to analyze those key requirements that we were already mentioning, but seeing them from our point of view, or from what we've learned from our interviews or desires of our customers. And we've seen that they need, or you need, automation, analysis, collaboration, and simplicity. And all this may seem sometimes even not easy to marry, but the point here is that with product data intelligence and improved user, we can focus on these pains, and we can help you thanks to SalesLayer focus. So on our last slide, if I'm not mistaken, just to emphasize, all those needs that were required, or that were demanded by our customers, are developed not only now, but are also in the roadmap to be improved and for our future developments, which is one of them, the cloud base. It is marketing and vendor friendly, because I don't know if you remember, Amanda presented a slide where she was asking the different users that were actually on, or that needed a PIM, and they had all, it was a broad spectrum from IT to marketing. So it's not only you cannot only have a PIM that is great for those that know IT and that can code and so on, but you also need something that is intuitive and that it's easy to manage, and that is thanks to SalesLayer. So I tend to say that SalesLayer is as simple as you want, and as complex as you need, in the sense that we have all these accessibilities and intuitive UX and just the word simplicity. But also another interesting thing is that we have our strong support service. We always tend to use this as one of our key features because we're really proud that our customers value us above average. And when I talk about above average, we're saying they point us around 8 out of 10, which is higher than most of our competitors. And I would invite you to check out our reviews and that just to have an idea of how our customers value both our support service and our partner network. So, but also something that they value is our product data import, where one of the easiest is just almost literally drag and drop. By the way, if you need a demo for that, we'll be pleased to show you. Also, we have DAM features, which are integrated in the PIM. No need to use 2 different tools. You can use SalesLayer. You have the rules and reports, connectivity to other e-commerce services. Commerce services like CRM, your ERP, CMS, product life cycle management. But also you have the possibility to customize your own connector, right? So it's very simple just to click and connect to whatever input or output of information. We also have data governance with workflows, controlled access, rollback features. This rollback feature, I love it. It's like a time machine. All you have to do, if you're familiar with the Apple time capsule, all you have to do is click and it'll remember all your configurations, all your products. And if you mess up, don't worry, you can go back in time and recover all your data. So that's something that most of our customers and many of our customers value. And last but not least, the quality scores. Each product has its own quality score where you're sure that if it's not fulfilled, it won't be 100%. And only those that are 100%, then you can put them live and then you can share them on all your selling channels. So all these features, and these are just some of the features. We could be talking about SalesLayer for a whole hour, and I don't want to do that. I want to listen to your questions, but just keep in mind that these features are going to help you enable your business to the future and to the present. And I think that with this, we're done, and we have some questions. Thank you very much for your time and for your questions. Actually, I'm going to start with a question for you, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah. So lately, my business, says the customer, lately my business has been getting way more requests about my products and shipments, asking what materials and manufacturing processes we use and if they are sustainable. What could be the best way to inform about all this to my customers and making a green, and he uses the comments, shopping experience?
It's a great question, and it's one that we've had in our predictions, I think, for the past 2 years, a flavor of this, and that's customers using their own values to dictate which brands and retailers that they interact with. They're looking that the corporate social values like sustainability are aligned with their personal beliefs. So I think that's an obvious way where you can see how product data can support directly these evolving customer expectations. And so when you think about your product content, you can use your imagery to add, that's the combination of kind of your brand assets plus your product data, the certifications to be able to show, what is aligned with your green, manufacturing processes, or where you won awards, or even to add on your own brand vision statements or promises as a part of what you think about within your product content. So, or also attributes that talk about, that this is something that was sustainable or comes from an accredited manufacturer, anything like that. So your product information management system alone may not be the only thing that lever you pull to communicate to customers of how you're supporting a sustainable buying experience, but it's certainly one of those that you can pull, and an easy way to start small, low-hanging fruit, to start adding some of those things that you may already have into your product content and creating a new brand standard, that those become just a standard for how you communicate with your clients across different channels, across different content types.
Great. Appreciate very much your insight. I hope that answered your question. And sorry, I don't see your name, but thank you for asking. We have another one, and I think this one's for me. All product information must be or go through the PIM in our data structure. That's a very good question, and I would say yes and no. Basically, yes, because all your information and product information can go if you consider product information like attributes and so on. But if you by any chance consider, for example, your anything that should go in a warehouse management system, like for example, your stock and all this, we would recommend not to use SalesLayer or any PIM as a stock managing system or such, because that there are tools specifically for those. I mean, we've had customers in the past use it. It's not the best practice. Maybe I'm getting into some thin line, but to be 100% honest, if you consider product information, attributes, and so on, then yes, the answer is yes. If you by any chance consider stock management as product information, then maybe you're not looking for a PIM. So last question, because I want to be sensitive to the time. It's going to be, I think this one's for you, Manda. I feel like social and environmental repercussions are becoming a very delicate topic for brands. It's easy to appear insincere when you're truly committed, even when you're truly committed. How could any businesses transpire its social responsibility in the overall customer experience?
This is a great question, and one I can't possibly do justice to in the time that we have left. So I'll plug here and point out that Forrester, we have a lot of research, and especially new research on this subject. But if I have to give the short elevator answer here, I think the most important thing is the cliche of walking the walk. Take a look within your organization before you create these mission statements, or as you're creating these mission statements that become a part of your brand promise, to ensure that the partners you work with, your processes, the way you treat your employee experiences, are all aligned to what customers expect as a part of their experience in interacting with your brand. So I think the most important thing, as you look across how you apply your own corporate values and evolve them to be aligned with more social or other types of values that your customers may be reflecting, are to ensure that they are something your brand stands behind, and you can point to evidence of this is something that you live and breathe. And again, there's a lot more research here. It's a very fascinating topic, and it's so interesting that it's also related to product information management. As Chris mentioned, there's a lot of these blurring lines, I think, not just across software categories, but ultimately who's responsible and for what level of experience. So it's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Great. So we do have one or two more questions, but we want to be time sensitive. So again, thank you very much all for attending. You will be receiving a recording of this. Please visit saleslayer.com. Also visit forrester.com. And by the way, as I said, you will receive the recording, but if you have any questions, just let us know. We'll be pleased to answer. You have our emails. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.